Hello? Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. I see Sleepy, hi, and Lovely Girls, hi, welcome to the stream. Hope you all can hear me okay. My weather's been kind of funny all day, but it's more or less calmed down now. So I don't think you're going to hear like gale force winds in the background. But can you hear me? Okay, great. Oh, hi, Seapath. Oh, hi, Hunter. We've had like gale force winds all day, but it's calmed down, and I don't think it's going to pick up again until like the middle of the night, so I think it's going to be okay. So today, last time we draw Amaryllis, so I was actually thinking today we draw Snapdragon. However, I'm busy doing the script for part 4 of the review, and I've gotten to the episode where they have their mermaid transformations. And I'm still very annoyed that we don't see Snapdragon as a mermaid. So I thought that we would spend today actually drawing Snapdragon as a mermaid. I'm just going to switch us over to Clip Studio Paint. Oh, there we go. So I try and do like a warm-up drawing before I start the stream these days, because I did the stream once and I didn't do a warm-up drawing, and I was very embarrassed because obviously if you just try and jump into drawing like on demand in front of an audience and you haven't even warmed up or anything, it's not really gonna go well. So this was the warm-up drawing for today. It's just very quick. I think this took 10 minutes. So you weren't a fan of them taking him out of the mission like that? Yeah, and what's really annoying is they set up the mermaid thing in an earlier episode and then they didn't deliver. And I don't know, it feels like a cop-out, but it also kind of felt very mean, if that makes sense. Like it felt like they were bullying his character somehow, or her character, sorry. I've gotten to the episode where the transgender story element is now in play, so I now have to get used to saying she instead of he, which I mean that's always difficult, but I'm gonna try and do my very best to use the correct pronouns, because I made the decision when I started the series that I would keep saying he for Snapdragon until we reach this point in the show when they actually introduce the transgender stuff, and then I would start using she, just because I thought it kind of gives you an experience going into it that you would have watching the show raw. So even though I knew that her pronouns were she at the start, I felt just to kind of guide people through the show, it would be nice to do the switch like that. But now we're at the point where I have to remember to say she. Hey Alexander Alex, I was wondering what martial art do you know? I know capoeira, oh jeez, capoeira, savat, Muay Thai, Taekwondo, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What martial arts do you know? I'm afraid I don't know any martial arts at all. I have friends who do martial arts, so my knowledge of martial arts is kind of through them, which isn't that much. And because this is going to shock you, but I'm not much into like physical activity of any kind. I've never been, but I've had a lot of discussions with my friends about like the mentality of martial arts and how it's not really about fighting. It's about trying to improve yourself, and when you are in a match, you have an opponent and you are using that opponent to better yourself. It's not really about aggression, so that's very interesting. Oh, a Hunter says, quick question, I forgot to ask from the last stream. Yeah, sure, go ahead. I'm just going to, I've got my reference images here, so this is the best reference we have more or less of Snap in her mermaid costume. So I was thinking of kind of basing it around this, but I'm not going to use the shell bra just because it's kind of tacky and I don't like how cheap Halloween the costume looks. So I'm going to give her a rather nice, more flowing outfit, I was thinking. But I'm going to keep her short hair because I actually quite like her short hair more than I like the long hair that the costume has. So I was looking up poses and things, so I kind of already know how I want to draw her. But you can go ahead and ask Hunter while we wait for the stream to catch up, because I believe YouTube has a slight delay. Apparently I've heard other people complain about that, but like even Twitch has a delay for me, so it's basically the same. So I'm going to do like that and like that. And then the tail end will be down here. Hunter asks, the episode where the dragon decays and explodes into stars, do you think that's a product of the show being rushed or just the writers being random? I think it's a product of both. I think that the parts of it that were rushed is, and the part that I really complained about that episode specifically is they didn't know what tone they wanted. Very much in that episode, but I think as a whole. Because there's a lot of instances in the show where they try to be like lol random humor, but then they also, and that also reflects in like how needlessly cruel everyone is. Like everyone is so nasty, and it's in a very low-key way, where I only really picked up on it the second time I went through the series. But everyone is so mean, everyone is so casually nasty to each other, and in a show that's meant for adults, that can be funny. But the problem is they also wanted this like uplifting female empowerment show, for lack of a better word. They wanted She-Ra. They wanted to do like the new show, the new version of She-Ra did. But then they also wanted this like nasty adult animation show. And then they also kind of wanted to be lol random. So as a result, nothing really came together because there wasn't a clear vision from the start of what they were going for. And, you know, in animation we talk about working from general to specific. And I think that's a big problem with the show overall, is they didn't look at what they wanted in the larger frame of the story, and instead only focused on individual elements and on like little details, rather than thinking, okay, this is the tone of the show, this is the main focus of the show, and then working inwards towards smaller details and such. And I think that scene with the dragon is a big like symptom of that. Oh, how am I going to do this? Okay, I'm gonna zoom out so I don't draw this too big. So we have like that, more or less. And I'm probably going to resize her a little bit because at the moment I've made her quite big. Down like that. I grew up in mixed family, Chinese, Korean, people from Taiwan, and I'm Filipino and Latina. I'm kind of at the stage in my life where I want to see what's effective in a real fight, but I still respect that. Yeah, like fighting, again, it's not really my wheelhouse. That's something you would have to talk to somebody who's more like into that kind of thing. Let's see, I've drawn this way too big. Okay, I'm gonna erase this because I've done this way too big. I think you would be better off talking to somebody who's like actually within the martial arts community, because having me talk about it would be like, how do I even compare it? It'd be like asking me to come to like have a professional opinion on cooking in MasterChef. It's like, oh well, I make mac and cheese for my family at night. That's as much information as I have on the subject. I'm in no position to actually give an opinion on it. Okay, this tail is apparently a lot trickier than I gave it credit for. This shape, because I want to give it a lot more curls than it actually has. There we go, that's better. Because I don't have it open here. I was looking at the mermaid designs in the show itself, and they're relatively simplistic. They've done something which I don't really see a lot of people do. There's the mermaid designs, where a lot of people with mermaid designs, especially in the toy industry, what they'll do is they'll have very simplistic tops, and then they'll put the majority of the details and design in the actual tails. Whereas High Guardian Spice, they've actually had the tails be quite simplistic, and they've focused the details on like the hair adornments. And I really like Time's outfit. I really like this design, it's so good. But they've put all the attention to details in the top of the outfits rather than making the tails really flamboyant. So I kind of want to go for that. I don't want to be too frilly and stuff with the tail, because I kind of want to keep it in line with the mermaid designs, just because I do think they are quite good. Oh hey, me and my guester, how are you? You're surviving? I know you've had a bit of a day. Okay, so shoulder up here, arm down here, shoulder up here. There we go, hands. There we go. And I've got her references, oops, that's not it. I've got her references here for her hair. So I might just give her like her normal hair, but I was thinking of maybe giving her a slight, almost like Peter Pan. No, that's not. Slight Peter Pan, where it kind of is moving with the water. So it's kind of got this almost pixie-like upward swirl to it. I thought that would be quite cool. And we can change it, but that's relatively the design I'm thinking of. So upper body, lower body. So there. Okay. And then I know the other designs don't have it, but I was thinking of giving Snapdragon just some slight frills here, because if you look at her actual mermaid costume in the show, it's very frilly here at the bottom. So I kind of want to bring that into the design, but not too much, because I don't want to go overboard with it. Hunter says, personally, I don't care for the mermaid designs. I feel like they could do more than mermaid tails as the main focus. Yeah, I quite like them. I think they're very cool. Well, like I said, I really like Time's design. I think this design is one of the best out of all of them, because instead of just giving her like a mermaid shell bra like Ariel, which is like 90% of mermaid outfits, I was looking at mermaid outfits before the stream just to get a rough idea of what I wanted to do, and they all give them the shell bras. Like they all give them like the Ariel shell bras, where they just do that, and then they give like all the details into the tail, where they give them extra swirls and they give them extra colors and all of that. And so I really like the design here, because they've used like a conch shell for her shoulder here, like a pauldron, and then they've pushed that design into here as well. And then they have the shell design, the yellow here, and then it's also in her bow. And then they have the harmony of the blue in her tail, her braces, and her choker. I felt they could have done a little bit more with just having like the generic like tail shape of that. They could have pushed it and made it a little bit more interesting, but oops, I've drawn on the layer. I like the color harmony, and I like how much detail they've put on top here, because the problem is with animation, you need to be careful how many fiddly details you give a design, because you're going to be responsible for every single tiny detail that moves, and you're going to have to redraw that detail frame by frame by frame and keep it consistent, which is the problem, where you have to take account how that individual piece of the outfit is going to move. The only outfit I don't really like is Parsley's. I think they really phoned it in. Like, I think they designed these three characters, and then they just kind of phoned in Parsley, because after episode 4 in the show, they kind of just forget she exists. Like, they barely use her after that. It's very frustrating, because I quite like her character. I think she's a good character, and it's like after they give her the story with her family, they don't know what to do with her, so she's relegated to backgrounds. Like, she's almost like a support character. Amaryllis and Snapdragon, especially Snapdragon, get more screen time and importance than Parsley, who's supposed to be one of the main characters. So that's really annoying. Only Times One is decent. Like, what if they went with something like the mermaid transformations in Harry Potter? You mean like a more fish design, where they kind of give them a more harmonized fish design, for lack of a better word, rather than just taking the characters and slapping mermaid tails on them, I'm guessing is what you mean. Because I kind of agree with you, but at the same time, because it's a magical girl series, I feel that they did want to lean into that whole, I don't know, I want to say toy design look, but you know what I mean when I say that. How does this child's look here? How is this child's head shaped? Okay. Yep, it's the wrong one. They don't really have that much jaw definition. They're very simplistic with their face shapes in this show, I've noticed, which is fine. I think when it comes to me, just my personal drawing, I prefer giving characters a much more defined jaw. But I think that's probably because I grew up reading a lot of European comics, and I don't know, like, I don't want to say European comics are like that, because if you look at like Tintin is extremely simplified in the character designs, but I read a lot of Asterix, And I think Asterix's way of handling its characters, like that blend of detailed and simplistic, I think that's what was a big influence on me without me realizing it. Just checking the chat, because once I had the chat open and my phone did not stay updated, so I had the impression nobody was in chat. But I think I've got the setup figured out by now. Fair point. I just feel that there are ways to differentiate tropes. No, you're completely correct, and I do fully agree with you. One of my favorite mermaid designs that aren't toy based, if I can put it that way, is the mermaid designs in the live action Peter Pan movie. I don't know if you guys saw that. I think it's from 2003. I've heard people dislike that movie, but I've also heard people like that movie, so I'm not entirely sure what its reputation is. But I really, really like the mermaid designs in that. I think it's always been a favorite of mine because it almost makes them look like grey aliens, giving them completely black eyes and an almost really otherworldly appearance. I always thought that was very well done. So I get what you mean. I just think that with the goals of this show, which is to be very, very feminine and girly, that wouldn't have been, let's say, the right take. However, I do hear what you're saying. They could have maybe spiced up the designs instead of keeping them so traditional in terms of mermaid designs. But I think it is some of the better design work in the show, whereas there are some characters and some monsters that are so phoned in, like there's just no imagination or thought put into them whatsoever. So it's like, oh, something that's not awful. I think that's also a big part of it. Okay, I can already tell I'm a little struggling with this. There we go, it's better. Never watched any Peter Pan movies, surprisingly. Oh, really? The 2003 one, I really like it, but like I said, I think people have mixed feelings about it. I think it's pretty cool, and I like the interpretations it takes, where it kind of leans into the psychology of the original play without overdoing it, but it plays into the whole idea of Captain Hook actually being Wendy's father, which is actually from the play. It's not like the movie trying to reinterpret the story, and it really goes into that kind of psychology without overdoing it, so I quite like it. Yeah, see, I want to give my characters strong jawlines, and then I end up messing it up when it comes to characters like these, which are quite simplified. Simplification is one of my big weak points, I have to admit. And just redo this. You start with the left eye before the right eye. I'm the opposite when it comes to lining them up. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. I think with Snapdragon, her eye shape is a little challenging for me because I tend to draw round-eyed characters a lot more. So it's a challenge when I'm trying to draw characters with these really sharp angular eyes, but I'm trying to make them look happy. I think that's what's tripping me up a little bit. Giving her some eyelash. Bring down the pencil size. There we go, that'll do. Like I said, I'm working on the script for part 4 at the moment, and I actually did make the decision, I think I said it in one video, I'm going to have a part 5 where I talk about the characters overall, and like the larger, I don't want to say themes, but like the show as a larger whole, because after going through all the individual episodes, I can then go into this is Sage's character across the entire show, this is Rose's character, this is Time's character, and kind of look at them in a broader way now that I've gone through all of it. So I am actually going to do a part 5, and then I'll have it all in like a supercut. So I don't know how long that's going to be, but I'm going to edit all of the parts into one long video, and I'm going to have that up as well. So if people want to binge the entire thing, they can just put that on and have it play. And I think it's just also good for algorithm purposes. And if I look at myself and the kind of videos I like watching, like Radical Soda's Pokemon videos on Pokemon Sword and Shield, I've watched the 4-hour supercut more than I've watched the individual parts, just because it's more convenient to have it all in one video and kind of just put it on and let it play. Lately, I've been doing character studies on how I can draw people in different varieties. Yeah, that's a very good idea, because I still kind of trip up on it, but I should have focused on drawing human characters a lot more than I have, because the fandoms I was largely in weren't focused on human characters, because it was like My Little Pony for a long time, and before that it was, what was it? I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle for a long time. So it was all these, oh, and then it was Invader Zim. So it was all these franchises which didn't really have human main characters, and as a result I kind of had to learn how to draw human characters a lot later than I should have as a result. So just going through the process of figuring out how to draw humans in like different varieties, it's a good idea to get that down. See, I'm struggling with this eye shape, it's throwing me off. I can see myself playing a 5-hour video. Yes, thanks, Sleepy. But yeah, I tend to find I do that more than the individual episodes in things, especially because I listen to YouTube mostly when I'm working. So I like not having to look for new things to watch every 20 minutes or so. You know what? I'm going to flip this and see if I can fix it. Okay, that helps a little bit. See what's going wrong here. There we go. I think that eye was just too low. A little better. We're just going to work with it. It's fine. I always like giving characters their upper teeth. I don't like giving them just that shape, because I feel it can make them look toothless, which isn't very attractive. For me, it was Sonic characters and Looney Tunes before I really learned how to do proper anatomy. Yeah, see, exactly. I also had a Looney Tunes and Sonic phase, and it's exactly what happens. You get very good at drawing in a general sense, but because you're not really practicing human anatomy, you get to a point where you're like, oh, I don't actually know how to draw human faces. And then you kind of have like all these other skills, but you don't have the basics down, and it's really annoying when you get there and you're like, oh, this is a weak point of mine. Can't wait to see your part 5. Thank you. Yeah, we're on part 4 next, which I'm writing the script for at the moment, and then I'll get to part 5. And then after that, I've got 2 video series. I've got 2 next projects like lined up that I think I'm definitely going to do. The first is I want to look at the Bee and Puppy Cat cartoon that's coming to Netflix, because I think it would be nice to have it as a comparison to High Guardian Spice, because it's also a very feminine show, and I really liked the Bee and Puppy Cat cartoon that was on YouTube, so I have faith in that. And then the other topic I want to do is I didn't realize how much I loved the movie The Road to El Dorado until I watched a reaction video of somebody seeing it for the first time. And I realized just how absolutely feral that movie makes me. It's so good. So I thought I would do a video on why it's so good, both in terms of writing and characters and animation, but more specifically also in just how much thought went into the historical accuracy of that movie in ways that people aren't even aware of. Like, how much research was put into getting that movie to look as good as it does in terms of representing Mayan culture specifically to that time period. It's insanity. So I thought that would be cool, but that would be like a long research project, and then I can do the Bee and Puppy Cats look, which doesn't really require research, it just requires me to watch the show. So I kind of have like 2 projects going at once, you know, in between actually doing my real job. Although I thought it was too late for me when I realized I can't draw the male body at age 17. That's lame. I hope you realize it's not. I mean, it's rough because I can be like, oh, I've been drawing since I was 2 years old or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, how do I put it? That's not like, oh, I've been drawing from 2 years old, that's why I can draw. I heard it once said, was it Bob Ross? It was somebody like Bob Ross who said that talent is only applied interest, and what that boils down to is if you take the time to put effort into something and improve in it, that's really what talent is, and you can pick that up really, really quickly. And that's all that talent is how quick you can pick things up. So I've been drawing since I was 2 years old, but I still struggle with human faces, you know what I mean? El Dorado was awesome. I love the animation and color palette in that movie. Yeah, like, see, that's the thing with the color palette specifically. All the buildings in that movie, when they get to not the Yucatan, when they get to the Yucatan in that movie and they get to El Dorado, the city, all the buildings are painted red. And not only is that great for color design, but that's actually historically accurate. That's what I mean. Like, the fact that they went so far as to get the accurate color palette of what those buildings were painted as originally and bothered to put it in the movie. That is what I mean when I say so much thought was put into it. Because they could have just like had the building shapes there and called it a day. But they really, really went into the smaller details. And I feel that that's the kind of research that people don't really think about, and that's kind of what being an animator is you want to hide how much work you've done. You know, you're a good animator when people don't realize how hard you've worked. You're a good animator when people don't see the animator. But at the same time, it also means that a lot of work goes unsung, just because while you're watching the movie, you're not supposed to think about things like that. You're supposed to enjoy the movie and the story for what it is. But then there's Road to El Dorado, and people don't talk that much about it. And I'm like, people should talk about this more because it's really good. Go like this. What else? I know she has freckles. Is there anything else here I need to be aware of? You mean DreamWorks was actually accurate to culture before Disney could ever be? Yeah, I know. Shocking, isn't it? And that's what I mean. Like, okay, I have to just kind of admit something. I have not seen Encanto yet. I have not seen Encanto yet, but I have seen Coco. And people give Disney all this credit for how much representation and cultural accuracy goes into their movies. And then they act like Road to El Dorado didn't do it 20 years ago, you know? Like, that movie came out in the year 2000. And we just don't talk about it. We don't talk about how much thought and effort was put into that movie. Yeah, they went for mixing in historical aspects like Hernan Cortez. That without really IRL changing history with the MC's antics. Yeah, there's a lot of thought put into it. And besides the fact that El Dorado, I mean, it wasn't a real city, but it's just got that perfect blend of fantasy with the romance of this idea of a golden city being hidden in the Yucatan Peninsula somewhere, and we just never found it. mixed with actual historical details, like the Mayan script that's throughout the movie. It's actually accurate Mayan, like you can read it, and well, if you could read Mayan, and the architecture of the buildings and the colors used to paint the buildings and the outfits characters are wearing, like it's all accurate. It's not just pulled out of nowhere. I would love to listen to you talk about what it's like making YouTube videos and having another job. What it is at the moment, I can't speak about my job too openly at the moment just because I'm still under NDA. But when I'm not working directly on my job because it's a bottleneck in the pipeline, then I work on my YouTube videos. Like while I'm waiting for my division to get its work delivered, then I work on a YouTube video in the meantime. So I'm always working, so I'm never just sitting around playing Minecraft, which is what I do in my spare time. But that's a big part of it, is just kind of using work time for work, regardless of what work it is. That's not too bad. That's not too bad, I think. Okay, detail time. I was thinking also in the actual outfit that she wears for Halloween, there isn't much color going on here. It's very gray, and I don't know if they purposefully wanted her to look like she's wearing a cheap Halloween costume, but I don't want to put her in gray. I think that's very boring. So I was thinking, there's a Barbie that I saw a picture of, and I don't think this was intentional, but this Barbie has like an almost iridescent look to her tail, where it's almost got the trans colors going on. So I was thinking of kind of doing this, because I think that's pretty cool, and not making it like very obvious. I just think like almost like it's a translucent shine to it rather. And I also think I would use like this shell bra, just because I think it's more flattering than the straight on boring shell bra going on here, which feels kind of cheap and tacky, which is not what I want to do. Oh, also save. If anyone's drawing at the same time, please remember to save your work. There we go. Let's give her her freckles, because I know I'm going to forget them. Does she have bottom lashes? I don't actually know. Oh, she does. Okay. I'm glad I checked. I'm going to do her hair. What is her hairline like? Hairline. Here we go. They don't really give her a hairline. They kind of just have it be this big. Oh yeah, kind of. It's kind of straight. So do it this way, like that, I would think. Question: did Mermista turn into a mermaid in She-Ra? I'm trying to remember. I think she does. I saw the new She-Ra quite a while ago, and I'll be honest, I really liked the new She-Ra cartoon, like a lot. And then the final season happened, and there's so much wrong with that final season. It put a very bad taste in my mouth, and as a result, like a lot of the details I just forgot because I was so disappointed. And I think my brain was just like, okay, well, we don't need this information anymore, and dumped all those memories. I don't know if me and my Gaster is in the chat still. She might be like remember that detail more than me. I think she does though, because I do know, I think her kingdom is underwater, or at least partially submerged. Okay, this here is technically a little longer, but I don't care. I just kind of want kind of short hair for a mermaid, but just a little bit flying upwards like this because I think it's cute. Hey Penguin! You just woke up? I hope you had a good nap and or sleep, depending on your time zone. I think she does too. I only watched season 1, but I think when she gets in the water she did. Yeah, I think she has legs all the way up until she actually gets in a body of water. If you've ever seen the movie Splash from the 80s, I think it operates on like splash rules where when she gets wet, she has a mermaid tail, but when she's dry, she has human legs. I want this a little bit more separate, because at the moment it's just kind of one big shape. I would like this to be a little bit more... There we go, that's better. Just kind of good a little bit more than just being one big ice cream cone. Okay, shell bra. I'm more or less going to follow this idea. So, like that. So the jewel would be here. Put the shell bra like this. Almost like it's a big bow. Kind of like that. Snapdragon already looking happier than at any point in the actual show. I know they're really mean to her. And I know she kind of gets better later on when she becomes more comfortable with who she is. But she's one of the characters. She really is likable. She really is one of the more likable characters. So it's a little sad when the majority of the show she's really scowling and unhappy and just kind of angry all the time. And it's a shame because you like her. You want her to be happy. I need to rewatch She-Ra so I can give my personal opinions with it. Not that it really matters to anyone else, of course. Hey, that's kind of how I started my YouTube channel, where I'm like, I don't know if anybody else cares about this information, but I'm just going to say it out loud. And, I mean, I don't have a massive following or anything, but that's kind of the idea, is like, I need to talk about these things. I might as well record myself doing it. See, I also like this. I like this, kind of off the shoulder ruffle going on here. I thought that was really cool, because I also don't want to give Snapdragon just Ariel's outfit. As much as I love the Little Mermaid, I want to do something a little bit more than just copying the traditional Disney Little Mermaid look. Kinda like that. Okay, she doesn't have a necklace, so I'm not going to give Snapdragon one then. Oops. I have too many things open at the moment. Okay, let's check this anatomy. So ribcage goes there. And you have this part here. So this is correct, but I need to bring this a little higher. Okay. There we go. And the other High Guardian Spice mermaids, this is what I found odd. They don't do the Little Mermaid thing where they put ruffles here. They just kind of turn into mermaid tails, which I think is a bit sad. Oh, Parsley has the fins here. I think it's a simplification. They didn't have to give the mermaid outfits, but maybe it was also like, we have to do this because trying to keep track of all these ruffles is going to drive us insane. It is always interesting, I think, to hear other people's opinions on stuff. That's why this genre video exists on YouTube. Yeah, and I mean, like, there's a lot of topics I like watching videos on, but I will watch multiple videos on the same topic. And as you say, it's because I like hearing other people's opinions on it. And I'm like, oh, I wonder what this person has to say about it. Okay, I've heard their opinion. Now I want to hear this other person's opinion on it. I think this might still be a bit low. I don't want it to look like she's naked. Yeah, I might bring it up a little bit just for decency's sake. Because if I were to go with anatomy, that would logically be where her legs would start. But having the mermaid tail start that low kind of just looks a little bit too naked. So I'm going to bring it up a little bit. There we go, that's better. Give her ruffles. There we go. But enough about me, let's talk about me. How's the weather right now? The weather's holding out. It's extremely cold today. It doesn't really snow in my country, but the places where it's snowing, it is snowing at the moment. Like the places that get snow have snow at the moment. So it's really cold and windy today. It's really miserable. Collarbone, collarbone. There we go. I think I might have made her neck a little bit thick. Bring this jaw in a little bit, bring the neck down. Give this shoulder like that. There we go, it's better. And I'm not going to do too much here. I'm going to do the aerial thing where we just give the fin a little bit of detail like this. There we go. And like I said, I just want to give her ruffles on the side because I think it would just give it a nice bit of flair, even though the other characters don't have it, but it's fine. Like that. And then we'll also be this side. Take this away. Oh, you live in Nevada? Oh, that's rough. My friend who currently lives in Los Angeles, she grew up in Nevada. And she said it's murder. And the thing is, she grew up in Nevada, but she also was goth at the time. So she's running around Nevada in like full lace gloves and everything. It sounded like a nightmare. I don't know how she survived. Oh, you live in California, Penguin? I think you guys are having a lot of heat at the moment too, from what I've heard. I know that a lot of the northern hemisphere is having quite a lot of weather, if we can put it that way. So I hope you guys are keeping cool and that you're not having too dry a period, because I know that if it gets too dry, there's the problem with fires, which is a problem we have here as well. Oh, you live in Tijuana? Oh, that's also rough. I heard Tijuana gets really hot as well. What's a penguin doing in California? Hey, Dark Frost Star. By the way, have you seen Mermaid Melody? Speaking of mermaids. I have not. I've seen like one episode a while ago. It looks cute though. It reminds me of like a more child-friendly version of Full Moon Sagashite. Which is really good, by the way. That's another show I would like to talk about at some point. Is Full Moon Sagashite. Full Moon wo Sagashite, sorry. Because that is one of the most underrated idol / magical girl shows. It's really, really good. And I never hear anybody talk about it. I think Mermaid Melody, because the thing is, a lot of anime didn't air here whatsoever. So a lot of anime I only got access to in like 2008, I think, because also our country was on dial-up internet for such a long time. And it was only around 2008 we started getting Wi-Fi. So it was only around that time that I had access to anime, and even then I had to buy a lot of it. I couldn't just find it online. So a lot of the shows like Mermaid Melody and stuff, because it never aired on television and because I didn't go seeking it out, it just completely passed me by. Same with Tokyo Mew Mew as well. And yet we got Metabots, because I remember growing up watching Metabots, and I really liked Metabots. It's such a good show. All the episodes are on YouTube. Is that of Mermaid Melody or Full Moon? Because I know Full Moon is completely on YouTube for some reason. So is the Anne of the Green Gables anime, by the way. If anybody's interested in watching the, like, Ghibli or Ghibli, before Ghibli was Ghibli, the Anne of the Green Gables anime from the 70s, like all 50 episodes, somebody uploaded them to YouTube in HD. They're just available. Oh, Mermaid. Okay, cool. I might check that out, especially while I'm working. I've been doing nothing but watching like really brainless, not YouTube drama videos specifically, but like people who look at internet train wrecks like Chris Chan and stuff. I've been watching really trashy YouTube like that while I work lately, just because I don't need to think. I can just listen and go, wow, that's screwed up, and not really go deep into it. But I think it's also rotting my brain a little bit. So maybe I should watch some Mermaid Melody instead. I think it'd be good as like a detox. Hey, George Thompson. Gundam puts their stuff on their YouTube channel. Really? Oh, I must check if that's available in my country. You know, because sometimes YouTube blocks off certain content. Because I want to watch Gundam 0083. Like, I really, really want to watch Gundam 0083. The TV series specifically. I saw the movie of 0079. And all three of the 0079 movies are on Netflix for me. But I wasn't sure where to find 0083. Been watching bad people get arrested while I draw. Yeah, see, exactly, it's the same thing. You watch these degenerates on YouTube and you're like, what the fuck? But while you're drawing something else, it's so mindless. It keeps you entertained without you having to think. And it's not like watching a true crime stuff, like a true crime show. Because with a true crime show, usually somebody ends up getting murdered. But with degenerates on the internet, you don't have to worry about that kind of thing. You can just watch it and nobody like gets hurt. It's just a bunch of weirdos. So it's very similar to watching true crime without anyone getting hurt. And I am convinced that's why it's so addicting. But like I said, I kind of need a detox because it does kind of rot your brain after a while. Like maybe I should watch, you know, actual content rather than just whatever's going on here. Let's do this. I should actually just use the paint bucket to fill in the black because I'm on 0 anti-aliasing, but when it comes to things like this, I don't know. I think I've said before, inking is my favorite part of drawing. So if it's like just filling in the eyelash, I'll take the extra time to do it just because I enjoy the inking process. What's the opinion on Princess Tutu? I really like Princess Tutu. Princess Tutu is so good. I need to finish it. I have a rough idea of how it ends. And when I say I need to finish it, I mean I have 3 episodes left. That's what I mean when I say I need to finish it. But it is so good. It is probably one of the best magical girl animes. Like, you have a lot of magical girl anime, but in terms of the upper echelon of magical girl shows, it's like Sailor Moon, Revolutionary Girl Utena, and Princess Tutu. Like, that is the top tier of magical girl content. You know, you get good magical girl content, and then you've got, like, the masterworks. And also, you know, Ikuhara did Sailor Moon, Ikuhara did Revolutionary Girl Utena, and Ikuko Ito did Sailor Moon, and Ito did Princess Tutu. So it's kind of all the same group of people. So that's the other thing. I put ghost stories as background while I try to draw. Then I end up watching them, so after the video is over, I have to close the computer so I can work on what I wanted. Yeah, I know that problem as well. My problem is I see a lot of things where I'm like, oh, I want to watch this when I can pay attention. And then I put it in my watch later playlist, and then I don't touch it for like a month. That's like my toxic trait. You should go watch Princess Tutu? Yeah, you should. Princess Tutu is really good. It's really, really good, and it's very well thought out. I don't like using the word artistic to make something seem it's better than its contemporaries. But because Princess Tutu is very much a ballet, it's not just that it's based on ballet, it's that it's also told as if it is a ballet. That really gives it this extra layer to it, which a lot of other shows don't have. Do I like the Winx Sirenix designs? I think I do. I think what I like about the Sirenix designs are they're simplistic, but not too much to be boring. I think my only problem with the Sirenix designs are they're kind of samey. I wish each Winx character had a unique design, because the Sirenix designs are really uniform, and I think that's my biggest problem with them. Well, I have to give the disclaimer, though, that I've only seen season 1 of Winx. I'm aware of the designs, but I have not actually watched past season 1 yet. It was one of the Magical Girl shows that inspired me to write my own Magical series, along with Madoka, Sailor Moon, etc. Yeah, that's the other one, it's Madoka Magica. I know some people have issues with it, but I think that's another one that I would put on par with Sailor Moon and Utena and Princess Tutu is Madoka, just because I want to say how unique it is, but again, it's not because it's unique that it's good. It's got a lot of artistic, it's got a lot of weight behind it. It's a very complex show that I think is extremely well executed. Okay, I didn't make her cross-eyed, so that's good. The latest magical girl thing I saw was the game called KO Flying Squadron 2. Is that like a, I want to say gotcha game, but I don't mean that as an insult, because is that like a Magia record? Because I know a lot of people are playing that at the moment because all the girls have like really cute outfits. Speaking of magical girl shows, one I remember a lot is Magical Doremi. I have not really seen Doremi, but I've heard nothing but good things about it, and I really like the designs and the animation of it. Like, it's really got a good aesthetic to it, and from what I've seen, like, it's a really fun show. Like, there's nothing you can really critique about it other than, oh yeah, this is good. And I'm not one of those people who will use the term, oh, it's for children, as if that's an insult in terms of quality. I mean, I'm an animator, I can't do that. But even so, like, I look at Doremi and I look at the character designs and the way it looks, and I'm like, that looks like a very high quality children's show, if that makes sense. It had a great 90s art style and good animation, but then it got creepy when I looked up the characters' descriptions. It's an old Sega Saturn game that Vinesauce... Oh really? Did Vinny play it? I need to check that out. Again, I've been watching garbage YouTube drama videos, and I'm behind with Vinesauce, which is horrible. I really need to fix that, because I really like Vinesauce. It's such a good show. Oja Moja Doremi. Is it Oja Majo? I always want to say Oja Moja, but it's Oja Majo. Oja Majo Doremi is a great example of a cute witch slash Majoko show. Yeah. And like, it's got cute designs, and it's one of the few shows where the toy, like most magical girl shows, they've got gadgets, and it's very obvious that the gadgets are designed to sell toys. And Oja Majo is one of those shows where, even though I can tell that the gadget is designed in a way to sell toys, it kind of fits the show's art style. Like, it doesn't look out of place. It looks like it belongs there, and I think that's really hard to do. Because even something with like Precure, you see some of their gadgets and you're like, oh, that is so obviously designed just to sell toys. That's the only reason it looks like that. Oops. Didn't Ochamacho, didn't they do like a reboot recently or something? I know Tokyo Mew Mew has a remake slash reboot at the moment. I'm not entirely sure what the reception is of that, but I know that's been out recently. Gotta go clean. Okay, Hunter, I'm still going to be online for a little while I'm finishing this up, so if I don't see you back, then I will catch you next time. So this is where I like inking the best, because I can do these very long strokes and I really like it. It's so satisfying. They have a time skip one? Yeah, I can see that. It's also when they do time skips with magical ghoul shows, it gives them like an excuse to bring in new designs which they wouldn't be able to do with the originals. I heard somebody joke, but I think it might actually be true, that the only reason Chibiusa exists is because Takeuchi wanted a child character who she could put in cute outfits. And I think that's actually true. Yeah, it's one with the characters aged up. But I think it wasn't an anime series. I don't know. I remember seeing something like that. Like a 20-year special, or like a 20th anniversary special, something like that. Also about Snapdragon, I wonder how the writers would have handled her relationship with her father in season 2, if they got one, that is. You know, this is a bit of a spoiler for part 4, but I'm going to mention it anyway. You know what I compare Snapdragon's relationship with her father like? I compare it to the relationship Hiccup has with Stoic in the first How to Train Your Dragon movie. Like, that's kind of the vibe it's giving me. Because I didn't get the impression that Snapdragon's father is an asshole. He just kind of seems like he was trying to teach Snapdragon how to stand up for herself and how to defend herself more than anything else. And it really reminded me of how much better it was done in How to Train Your Dragon. Oops, there's my phone buzzing for something. You'll probably hear my phone. I really need to take that alarm off. I have an alarm for 9 o'clock, so almost every single time I stream, I forget to take it off, so it always beeps halfway through the streaming session. You never realized that comparison before? Yeah, I go about it more in depth into part 4. But basically, my opinion was, I don't think High Guardian Spice's portrayal of Snapdragon and her father really communicates properly what the show wanted to. I can't really recall how I worded it off the top of my head, but I felt that it was better handled in How to Train Your Dragon, in terms of a character who very clearly we're not supposed to hate, but who is, in this case, wrong. Because I think, especially a show like High Guardian Spice, which likes to strawman a lot of its bad characters, where like if you are homophobic or anything along those lines, you're automatically a bad guy. And I feel like Snapdragon's father is fertile ground to have a character who is not necessarily homophobic, but is more concerned for the welfare of his child, more than, oh, I'm this horrible person and no son of mine, you know, that kind of whole story setup. If Sakura from Card Captain Sakura continued aging to now, she could potentially have a daughter the same age as she was in the original show. Yeah, I haven't watched Clear Card yet. I know that's like a recent one as well. I do wish that we had more magical girl shows with like a older magical girl who's like an adult who is in a mentor role. We have that in Hot Catch Precure, and it's really good. And I just wish more shows kind of went for that, because I think it's a really interesting dynamic that we don't get. Oh, I see Nightbot's deleted a few of your messages, Darkstar. Let me see what it says. Okay, I don't know why Nightbot deleted your messages. Let me see if I can restore those. I don't know, why did Nightbot time you out? That's not good. I'm so sorry, Dark Frost. I don't know why Nightbot timed you out. I wonder if I can undo that. My. I think Snapdragon's dad would have gotten more strawman by the writers if we had seen more of him. Yeah, probably. So, Dark Frost, whose messages got removed by Nightbot for some reason, said, I just hope they wouldn't have made Snap's father a transphobe. Yeah, I kind of really hope that too. I don't know if they will go that route, because I think it's much easier for them to just write characters who are in the wrong as being bad people. Like, if a character is in the wrong, they have to also be a bad person. They can't be in the wrong and be a good person. That's kind of the way this show writes characters, and it's a very one-note it's kind of a very one-note take on a character, which it's not very good writing. Like, you can do that. A lot of Disney villains are like that, and it's great. But I feel when you do that over and over and over again, it gets so boring, you know? I guess because I messaged too much in the short time. Maybe. I'm going to have to tweak Nightbot so it doesn't do that. I am sorry, Dark Frost. I apologize. I don't know why it did that. I will sort out its settings after the stream so that that's not a problem anymore. Because this is my first stream using Nightbot, because I saw all the cool kids use Nightbot and I was like, I want to use Nightbot. That sounds cool. So I'm still kind of learning how to use it at the same time. I did not know messages could even be tampered with in the chat. I could have fixed a lot of typos. Yeah, no, like I said, I'm figuring it out as I go, guys. Snapdragon's dad was technically correct. You have to protect what's yours, especially if you have siblings. See, that's the thing. They wanted to write Snapdragon's father as being this horrible toxic masculinity figure who's teaching Snapdragon wrong lessons about being manly and stuff, but they did it wrong because they showed Snapdragon's father teaching her to stand up for herself and protect what's hers. So, like, her father was right, but the show treats it as if he was wrong. And that's why I compare it to Stoic in How to Train Your Dragon, because I'm like, you guys did it wrong. What are you doing? This is just written wrong. It doesn't make sense. It's okay, bots and software can be quite screwy. Yeah, I just want to say sorry because that was a mistake and I did not intend that to happen, but I will fix it. And because, like, when that happens to me, when I get timed out, I'm always like, oh no, what did I do wrong? So it's like, no, this was just Nightbot being a jerk. Do these ruffles. Here we go. I still need to buy myself that mic stand. Well, it won't really help while I'm streaming, but I think I mentioned this. When I'm recording audio, I was thinking of getting a standing mic stand because I was watching a lot of vocal coach videos reacting to Nightwish, and they talk a lot about opening up your chest and not talking from your throat, so I still need to do that as well. I'm just thinking about it now because I'm like, I can feel my throat getting scratchy. And then I was about to say, I need to get the standing mic, and then I remembered, well, you don't use the standing mic while you're live streaming. See if I can do this flying smoothly. I do have a stabilizer here. I've got it to 15, but sometimes it still causes the line to wobble more than I want it to. There we go. It's a bit thin here, but I think it's okay. It's not too bad. My problem isn't... hey, Vice! My problem isn't that Snapdragon has a very closed-minded view of what makes a man. My problem is that Caraway agrees with it by pushing Snap to become a girl instead of himself. Yeah, when we get to the transgender plot point, which is where I am directly at the moment in script, I'm not trans myself, but I've read people who are trans talking about how Snapdragon's gender identity is handled very badly. But then I've also got comments from people who really relate to Snapdragon who are trans. So I'm kind of going to give both sides of the argument, and I'm going to present it as how does it work as a story element, because that is what my focus is in this series, and that's what I'm focusing on and have been focusing on, is how good is it in terms of story writing. But because it's a difficult subject matter in terms of giving it proper credit, I do think it's important to address how well the representation is. But yeah, that's kind of very messed up. It's the whole thing is messed up. Like I said, I actually point out in part 4's script that if Snapdragon was a little girl and her dad did the exact same thing in that scene where he teaches her how to stand up for herself, and you didn't change anything, you only made it so that Snapdragon was a little girl, that scene would be touted as being very empowering to girls without changing a single thing. And it's like, the scene is, it's so confused in what it's trying to give as a message. A little late for the subject, but Metabots was awesome. I recall at some point their staff got massively changed, so the OG staff tied all loose ends they could before parting. Yeah, that makes sense, because Metabots, the first 2 seasons, tell a complete story, and that's kind of why I like it so much. And then season 3 happens, and it's got nothing to do with the first 2 seasons, and then I stopped watching it. But one part I really like about Metabots is that it's a complete story. And I think when I was watching it as a child, that's why I liked it more than Pokemon, because Pokemon just kind of keeps going forever and ever and ever. Whereas Metabots had an ending that it built up towards, and it all made sense. I just wonder where the Be Yourself lessons from the 90s went. Yeah. It's very performative, and I think the big problem with High Guardian Spice overall is that it doesn't know how to be authentic, which is my biggest problem with it. It doesn't know how to be genuine. And I think that's also where that comes in as a problem, where it can't tell you to be yourself because it's all about performativeness and putting on an image. So it can't give the message of be yourself because that goes against what, I don't want to say the writers believe, but they're stuck in that idea of like, we have to project a certain image. And sadly, that's also part of why the show isn't very good. We are now going to add colors to Snapdragon here. So that's the line work for her. And now we're going to add colors. As a non-trans person who totally endorses more trans rep in media, I do think the writers dropped the ball on explaining the line between a tomboy/tomgirl and a trans person. Mainly a tomgirl, because even now tomgirls aren't as celebrated as tomboys. Yeah, like, it's very confused. And what's weird to me is that Rodriguez himself is a trans man. And the person who voices Snapdragon is a trans girl. They've got trans members on staff. So I'm not entirely sure where the ball was dropped. And my theory, because I don't know, is that it comes down to that authenticity. They don't know how to be vulnerable. They only know how to write in a way that they know will be positively received by the audience. But as a result, it comes across as fake. And that's why it's not very good. Whereas if the writers had just been authentically themselves, even if it wasn't the most squeaky clean version, and it wasn't trying to, like a lot of High Guardian Spice is them trying to manipulate you into liking certain characters. And if they did less of that and just wrote authentically, the characters would be a lot more likable. I'll put myself at risk then and suggest that maybe the writers of High Guardian Spice are fairly close-minded themselves. I think so, but I don't think it's from ignorance. I think it comes from inexperience. And I don't mean animation inexperience, I mean world inexperience. I think that the writers have not really ventured outside of their, like, culture bubbles. So they don't really have that maturity that they kind of need to tackle the subject in a way. But at the same time, you shouldn't have to have a college degree to be able to talk about these experiences. But if you talk about your experiences authentically and you put yourself out there, you don't need a college degree to do that well, and to do that in a way where people will, like, not respect, accept. I want to say accept you, but it's, when I say accept you, it sounds like I mean accepting the label, but I mean that in a much more human way. They will accept you as an individual person. But that's not what the writers did, and I think it's because they're too young or immature emotionally to know that they don't have to play act to be a certain label. They just need to be themselves as individuals and put that into the writing of the show, which is not what they did. What they did is they had certain tropes and ideologies that they wanted within the show, and they tried to write tropes and ideologies rather than write human experiences. And that's where it all went wrong, essentially. Because I watch a lot of RuPaul's Drag Race, right? And a lot of the a lot of the people I end up liking on RuPaul's Drag Race are the people who are just being themselves and bringing their experiences with their identity, whether it's as a queer person, as a trans person, as a non-binary person. They just bring that to the table and they express themselves as human individuals. And they don't need college degrees to do that. They just need to be themselves, and that's what makes them likable. But to do that, you need to be vulnerable, and you need to be willing to put yourself out there, and that's where the emotional maturity comes in. And after I put this red/pink, I'm going to take a sip of water because my throat is hurting, but I don't want to take a cough drop yet, because if I try and take a cough drop while I talk, I'm going to end up choking, because that's what happens. There we go. I appreciate that you're approaching this with an open mind and a forgiving nature. Perhaps they do just need to go out into the world beyond their own neighborhoods. I think that's what it boils down to, because I don't think, even though there are some people on the staff who are not great individuals, I do not think the show tried to make a hateful show. I've seen cartoons where the creators try to make a really hateful content, and I don't think that's what they were trying to do. So I think the parts where the show falls short, it's not because of hatefulness, and it's not because of they wanted to make people angry. There is a little bit of it here and there, but for the most part that wasn't their goal. And I think that it's not even experience, it's just you needed to be more vulnerable. You needed to be more willing to show yourself in your work, rather than write a character in a way to try and manipulate the audience into liking that character because they're doing and saying all the right things. Because then you end up like the uncanny valley, but as far as writing goes. I don't know what you'd call that. The uncanny valley of writing. But that's also kind of, I keep saying this, but that's also why I wanted to approach this show and my critique of it as a product, and not critique it from a standpoint of morality or ideology, because it's just a mess. And I don't think that individual projects should be judged on their morality unless they are pieces of media that do honest, real-world, massive damage. And in terms of that, I can only think of two films that I would categorize as that. And the first one is Triumph of the Will, which is literal Nazi propaganda that was made in the 30s. And the other one is Birth of a Nation, which is... Birth of a Nation, when it came out, I think it was 1914. When that movie came out, it revived the Ku Klux Klan. So those are the only two films I can think of in terms of media that have done honest damage to reality in a way where you can judge them in terms of morality and not just as pieces of film. And there's probably more, but those are the only ones that really come to mind. Literal uncanny valley. Lack of worldly experience is a valid criticism. Yeah, and again, this comes back to what I keep saying. I feel that the people who made High Guardian Spice were too inexperienced to be put in charge of a project like this. I feel they should have had more guidance. Because they could be show creators, they could be the people running the show, but they needed somebody to kind of guide them. And there is a person on the staff list that should have done that, and it's the producer, because apparently he worked on like the original Animaniacs and things. But if you look at the end product, I feel like Rodriguez and the writers were the ones running the show, and I don't know how much guidance was given there. Did I accidentally shift? Yeah, apparently I accidentally shifted the color layer. Hold on. There we go. I agree with everything. I also think they're putting their own insecurities in the show. Yeah, and that's what I think when I say they're writing tropes and they're writing characters who say all the right things. Is also an inexperience and like an insecurity, because it's like, oh no, we have to write the most morally pure characters we can, because we're writing gay characters, so we can't make our gay characters problematic in any way, shape or form, because if we do that, people will call us homophobic, you know, and that is a big insecurity. And I think maybe being like this being the first major show most of them have worked on, except for one or two other writers, but Rodriguez was an animator on like a series of internet shorts for Fox. But that is the extent of his professional experience. So I think a lot of it maybe also is, oh Lord, I'm in charge of a project and I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I think that might also be some of this insecurity. I'm just going to hit save quick. There we go. It's like they say, write what you know. Yeah. And I think the problem is, even if you say to Rodriguez and the show creators, write what you know, they would say to you, but we did, because we wrote gay characters. And it's like, no. Not write what you know in terms of write gay characters because you're gay. Write what you know in terms of, this is the experience I have lived through, regardless of what my identity is, of what I identify as. This is the human experience I lived through. That's what they mean when they say write what you know. Okay, that's the skin color. Now I'm going to... I'll take the pink from the shell bra, but I'm actually not going to take the grey from the tail, because I don't want to make it grey. That's boring. Okay, now let's go back to this. I'm going to take this yellow for these. I think grey is a sometimes ugly color. Grey is a difficult color. It just in terms of like clothing, because grey is one of those colors where it needs to have a very specific undertone for it to be nice, especially with whatever kind of skin tone you have. So grey, if it has a cool undertone, it tends to look good on me. But when it's just grey like this, I mean, this isn't a very flattering color in my opinion. I don't like this color. And again, this is why I'm a little confused as to why... Oh, I forgot the hair things. Maybe I'll add that. I'm a little confused as to why they decided to make the outfit look like a cheap Halloween costume. I mean, I can guess why, but I don't know for sure. Sometimes I feel like a lot of this show ends up gaslighting me, because I'm like, is this incompetence or is this intentional? Because if it's intentional, I look like an asshole. But if it's incompetence, then I'm 100% correct, and I can never tell which I am. There we go. Just gonna check something. Okay, 1, 2, 3, diamond. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There we go. I think there's more than one. Yeah, there's 2. Okay, it's the same. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Two, 3. Grey with yellow is a weird mix to me in the show's design, and the grey sleeves almost look greenish. Yeah, it's a weird grey. Let me put it that way. I think if it had like a blue undertone or something, it would look a lot better. But it's just a very strange choice in terms of the whole outfit. Some of these character designs are just a total miss in general. It's kind of frustrating. Yeah, and also some of them are really, really good and some of them are really bad. And then it's very strange who has very good design and who has very bad design. Because I don't think Sage's character design is very good. However, I really like Amaryllis's, like her white witch outfit. It's really cool. And it's like, how did you make one of your main characters have such a ugly design? And the character who I think was supposed to start out as the bitch that we're not supposed to like, I think that's what they were going for originally, and then they kind of just changed their minds. Why did you give her such a good design? It's very confusing. Why is Snapdragon's hair so red? I'm taking my colors from the screenshot, but maybe I must bring it down to orange. Maybe you're right. Let me bring it down a little bit. I don't know why the show likes to put weird colors that don't match together. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, this I see it is quite red. There's a lot of bizarre choices, and I think what makes the show interesting to me is that a lot of the bizarre choices are weird because it's like, why did you mess that up? It's like a weird thing to mess up. It's not, if something had been messed up and I'm like, oh, I can see how you would mess that up, and it's like, how did you mess that up? That's a very strange thing to have messed up in the first place. Sage's design is so generic. Yeah, like, I think that they were going for like Kiki's delivery service, not realizing that, well, they're not Miyazaki, but also that it just kind of clashes with Rose's design, which is really, really detailed oriented. And it's like, why? Why did you make this decision? This might be a bit random, but correct me if I'm wrong, but like, Rosemary the herb isn't really pink, is it? Nope. This is something that I'm only gonna say as like a very last end to the entire series, but none of the main characters are named after spices. Not a single one of them. They're all herbs. So there's no spice in High Guardian Spice. They're all herbs. I know High Guardian Herb would not have had the same ring to it, but again, it's a very weird thing to be that way, you know? Yeah, the show's manipulation into liking a character is so frustrating. I like Amaryllis and dislike Sage, yeah. And that's a consistent pattern, is the characters that they want you to like end up being the ones that you don't like because of the way they're written. Whereas a lot of the other characters who were not written to force you to like them end up being the best characters in the show because they're not being obnoxious. They just kind of exist, and you either like them or you don't. So compared to the characters that are trying to get you to force, like trying to get you to like them by force, you end up liking the other characters because you're like, no, you're not giving me reasons to like this character. You're just telling me I have to. And then you don't want to do it. Rosemary, I don't know. I don't grow my own herbs, so I can't, off the top of my head, think what colors are what. I know sage is green. Most of them are green. Parsley is green. But I also don't know the flowers because you don't normally see the flowers. And I'm busy drawing, so I'm not going to Google it right now. But the thing is, Rodriguez based Rosemary's design initially on Madoka Magica, so that's where the root of the design comes from. It's more like Rosemary's color scheme matches the other flower the herb's name references rather than the actual herb's colors. Yeah, and it's weird because I don't know, I want to mention like rose quartz from Steven Universe, and I wonder if that was a influence to a certain degree, not because it's obvious, but just because it seems like that's the kind of thing that would influence it to a certain degree. But then also I know that the root of Rosemary's design comes from Madoka Magica. Rosemary is green. Thanks for checking, Penguin. Back from searching, but the... Oops, sorry, that's my phone. Back from searching, but the images give me a violet flower when I put Rosemary's flower. Okay. Yeah, then it must be like the Madoka Magica thing. I saw somebody commented on my video, but I'm taking it with a grain of salt because I don't know how accurate it is. But one of the comments mentioned that Rosemary and Sage originally came from the fact that Rodriguez liked shipping Madoka with Sayaka, and he didn't like shipping Madoka with Homura, because he likes the idea of childhood friends becoming a couple more than he did what was going on in Madoka Magica. And according to this comment, he just kind of completely did not get that Sayaka is kind of self-destructive and extremely toxic, and that's kind of why Sage is the way she is. But this is only information I've gotten from one singular YouTube comment, so I don't want to run with it as if it's fact. And I would need to find evidence to back that up rather than this one thing. However, it holds a lot of water in terms of what we see in the show. Like, that would explain a lot. But I don't know how accurate that is. Wait, so Sage was inspired by Sayaka? That's what this comment said. I don't know how accurate that is, but that was apparently the original concept. But at the same time, Rosemary, even in like the proto form, she was very much a self-insert for Rodriguez. Like, Rosemary never had Madoka's personality traits to any degree. So again, I'm not entirely sure how much of that is accurate. But if you've seen Magical Girl Madoka Magica, and you know what Sayaka's character is like, that would explain a lot about why Sage is written the way she is. Like, it's kind of like, oh, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Because, spoiler alert, Sayaka is not a very great person. Okay, now I'm just going to deal with the spill. Might have to just up closing the gap. There we go. Add that as well. Expand it and clear. There we go. Now I want to give her, well, first let's do the eyes. Lock this so I don't draw on that layer. I wonder if it was on purpose, but since Rosemary crushes on Aster, it kind of seemed like Sage had a one-sided crush and Rosemary just was an airhead that thought this is what normal friends do. Maybe, yeah. It's very strange and annoying. I don't like shipping culture. I don't mind ships. I don't mind ships whatsoever, but I don't like shipping culture. And what I mean by that is I don't like people or the mentality where it doesn't matter who a character is, it only matters which characters are kissing. It doesn't matter what the characters' personalities are, it doesn't matter what the story is, I just want to see this character and this character kiss. And I feel like Rosemary and Sage's relationship is kind of written with that mentality of, I don't really care who these characters are. I just kind of want to see them making out with each other. If that makes sense. I go into more detail on that in the upcoming part, and I'll kind of elaborate on that a little bit. But again, it's not shipping that I have an issue with. It's like the handling of the characters that annoy me. Love is a battlefield, but shipping is a war zone. That is such a good way to put it. Good lord. Sometimes people like a character just because they are dating. Yeah. It's also frustrating because, like, because of who I am as a person, that's never been my interest in anything. Like, I really don't care. I do not care about that sort of thing. So it's frustrating to see people who only care about that sort of thing, and they don't care about anything else, character, story, nothing. And then, you know, I have this bias where I'm like, I do not like that kind of thing. So I also have to keep myself in check, that I'm not letting my personal biases make me get angry at something which is actually fine. Like, it's not a problem. I'm just getting worked up for no reason. So I also have to make sure that I'm not just getting worked up and letting my personal opinions color that side of it in terms of Rosemary and Sage. I think it's this one I read. Yeah. Shipping can ruin things. I remember Star vs. Shipping in show got very annoying at some point. Yeah, I never watched Star vs. the Forces of Evil, but I have watched videos covering it, and it seems like the shipping got to a point where the writers didn't even know what they wanted to do, and because they had based their entire show on this whole shipping thing of like, will Star end up with this character or will she end up with this character, they had no clear vision. So by the time they had to write an ending, they didn't know what they were doing because they didn't know where they were going with it. They were just interested in stringing along the audience. And so the ending was kind of a disaster because they literally had no plan. Take it up there. Put a yellow. Hair highlights. I think it's this one that I like. Yes, but that's too small. I'll just check my other ones. Oh, this one. No, I wanted under the line work, actually. Let me flip this, I think it'll be easier for my wrist. There we go. There we go, that's much better, okay. Come on. Here we go. Then I just want to give some life to her cheeks. Otherwise she looks a little dead. And I want to give like a slight shadow here just so it's clear what perspective is going on here. Also, most of the time shipping wars take over the entire show. Who cares about personality, backstory, plot? Let them kiss. Yeah, see, that's my biggest problem, and that's always been my biggest problem, is at that point kind of just watch a soap opera. Why are you destroying the cool show when, if this is what you want, there's so many soap operas you could just watch and get what you're looking for. But again, I have a very big personal bias, and I have to be careful not to let that color like actual opinions which I feel are more valid. By the way, is Snapdragon the name of a herb, or is it just something the writers thought sounded cool as a character name? Snapdragon is actually a flower, and the head of the flower looks a bit like a little dragon, so they're called snapdragons. see which one of these do I want to use. That's cute. Use that one. I thought it was just a character name. No, it's actually a thing. And I think I knew that, but I know it for a fact because there are actually snapdragons in Coraline, the movie. One of the flowers that's in the other mother garden are these little snapdragons, which later on in the movie come back and like try and attack her. See if I can do this without ruining this picture. And when the flowers die, they look like human skulls, really. That's really cool. I like that. Ah, there we go. That's what I want. Sometimes I'm not sure what I'm looking for. And then I'm like, oh, that's what I'm doing. Right. Let's see. There we go. And then I just want to give a slight iridescence to the tail in the trance colors because I think that would look cool. Just gonna check if I actually have something like that in the effects folder here. Ah, Nightbot does not look like you, Dark Frost. You were about to mention Caroline? Yeah, like that's where I kind of like when I think Snapdragon, that's what I think of. I think of that scene in Coraline with the little yellow Snapdragons. Maybe they could fix it by making Spice's actual Guardian titles to obtain upon graduation. Like here's the Cinnamon Guardian or stuff like that. That could be cool, especially because some spices are things like, you know, you have cayenne pepper and you have paprika. Paprika would actually be a good character name. And you can have like a spice level, and the spicier something is, like the higher level guardian you are or something. Yeah, I'm sorry Nightbot timed you out again, Dark Frost. Again, I'll adjust him so he's not such an asshole next time. Let's see if I can actually do that. Nightbot. Let me finish this first. Here we go. So I just want to check, because I know I've got this rainbow, I just want to check. Ah! Do you think those kind of look like the trance colors? Or do you think I'd be better off trying to do the colors myself? What do you guys think? Oh, that's pretty cool though. Actually, I like that. I think I'm going to keep that. And then I'll throw some scales on top of it. Because I know there's a pointillism brush. I think I have, yes, here it is. And we just make this pink. The bottom one white. So see if this looks good. Not really. Oops. Okay, that's not really working, but I think I have a glitter brush, which might work. If not, then I'm just gonna not do it this way. Try this one instead, actually. Go to add glow. I think I'm just going to stop writing in caps. Whoops. Guess I'm too much of a loud mouth. I'm very sorry, Dark Cross. I'll tell it so that if you type in all caps, it won't like time you out, because I think that's what happened. And I'll make it more lenient with the how many times you type in a row, because I think it's kind of set to people who have a very large audience, and I'm still small, so I still have I don't have too many people in chat, so having somebody send more than one message at a time is actually helpful for me, because then I have interaction. So I don't want to like discourage that kind of thing. Thank you. Dark Frost says it looks lovely. Thank you. Lighter, more teal. Okay, I'll add a little bit more teal as well. I just kind of want to give the illusion of scales. But I think I'm just kind of doing the same stroke over and over again, thinking it's going to look different this time. I thought I had a glitter brush somewhere. I don't see it right now. No, there it is. Glitter. Yeah, see, that'll look better. Hold on. Maybe just make the particle density a little less. Make it bigger. Oops, too big. There we go. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah. And this layer, let me just find it. Here it is. Oh, you like this drawing, Sleepy? Thank you. Ready for mermaid? Yeah. Even though it's August. I always want to do mermaid, but I'm very bad at like deadlines and things, so I always miss out. Let's make it a little bit more teal. There we go, more like that, and I'll just put some pink over it as well, just so I don't lose that. Add a little bit more teal. There we go. Put it the right way again. And usually, see, this is where I want to keep going and like just adding more detail, but I know I don't have time for that because I end up ruining my voice if I go too long. But I am going to just add a little bit of variation to the fins just to make them look nice, because I have to. If I don't, I'll feel bad. Which layer? This one, I think. Bring it up, bring it down. This one. Fine. This is one of the first times I was actually talking more than once in a stream. Well, I'm glad you could hang out, Penguin. Dirt won't come off the sink. I need to wash my sink as well. I feel you. I feel you, Hunter. It's something I have to do as well, and I've been putting it off. So just kind of do that just to give it a little bit of variation. And I'm going to stop it there because, like I said, I can keep going, but I'm going to tag on like so many hours because I'm one of those people where I'm like, oh, I'll just do one more thing. Okay, well, just one more thing. Okay, no, but one more thing. Do one more thing for real this time, and I keep doing that for like 3 hours. And I'm still here trying to understand what the heck a guardian is. I don't know, lovely girls. I don't think any of us know. I don't think by the end of the show we're fully like aware of what a guardian is. Again, they didn't think these things through. I think High Guardian Spice would have been a much better show if it had just been a slice of life show. I think that's kind of what it would have been so much better if it just stuck to that. You like the colors on Snapdragon's tail? Thank you. See, yeah, this is what I was thinking. Just like, it's the trance colors, but it's not like... there was this line of toys called My Pretty Mermaid, and they had these bright neon tails. And I don't want to do that. I'm like, we'll do it, but not like that. Just wanna... Okay, one more thing. But for real, one more thing, and then I'm gonna call it quits before I get carried away. I just wanna do this. Bring the brush density up a bit. Just do that because it's cool. Okay, and one more thing. One more thing. I just want to add this as well. Okay, and I'm gonna stop. That's enough. That's enough before we get into 3 more hours of this. I stopped trying to think about what a guardian is a long time ago. It is basically chevaliers and knights that for some reason need a school. Yeah, kind of. It's like, you say chevalier and... Sorry, it's me just turning my tablet off. you say chevalier, but it's like a musketeer, but not like a real musketeer. It's like the Man in the Iron Mask style musketeers. If you've ever seen the movie specifically with Leonardo DiCaprio, it's got musketeers in it, but they're treated as if they're like Jedi Knights. Like, that's what a guardian is, I think. I think it's a musketeer, but specifically musketeers from that movie. By the way, you've never seen The Little Mermaid? Please watch The Little Mermaid. I don't know how it holds up if you watch it for the first time as an adult, but it's my favorite Disney movie for like a lot of reasons. Some of them obvious, some of them not. But not so much in terms of story, more in terms of atmosphere. I think that movie is gorgeous in the atmosphere it was able to paint. No pun intended. Just using color and sound. It's very, very well done. I like your design better because it has more emotions and detail to it, even if it's simple. Thank you, lovely girls. That's very nice of you. They're like neon. I think you mean gulls? I don't know if you mean like the My Pretty Mermaid series, because yeah, that's exactly what they look like. At best, they're only loosely implied to be the soldiers of the kingdom / protectors of the land, but even that's vague. Yeah, it's very strange because, as well, they're all guardians, but then some of them are like witches, like Sage, and at the start of the show, her parents imply that she's going to become a healer, so she's not going to be active in combat. So doctors are guardians too? Like, it's... Again, as soon as you try and put any thought into it whatsoever, the entire thing falls apart. And this is why when you write world building and such, you have to ask yourself these questions. Because people are going to ask these questions. And the thing is, the better your story is, how better the writing is, the less questions people are going to ask. Because you can do the same things for the original Star Wars. Like, there are a lot of world building questions you can ask about the original Star Wars, and then the whole thing falls apart the second you do that. But because the first 3 Star Wars movies are that good in terms of story and character and atmosphere, you don't really care. You don't really care that some of it doesn't make sense, because that's not what you're there for. You're not there to make a Wikipedia about it, even though, you know, Wikipedia exists. But you're there because the story is good. But if the story is bad, then you kind of start thinking about these things more. And you're like, wait a minute, well, this doesn't make sense, and this doesn't make sense. Because if you don't care about the story that much, and it's not engaging you, that's what you're going to start focusing on. I'm in no hurry. Do all the one more things you want. I would, but my throat can't take it. So, otherwise, I just keep going. One of these days, I'm going to sit here and we'll do like a 5-hour stream or something, and I'll do an image from start to finish. You want good music suggestions while cleaning a bathroom? Play Simple and Clean. Play the Simple and Clean version that's sung by Donald Duck, which is on YouTube. I'm going to use that version in a video because it's so good. It's so good. There's also a version of Simple and Clean that's sung by Goofy, which is just as good. Nice design, Seepa. Thank you. Oh, thank you. You like this design? Thanks. I don't know if I read that message twice or if just more than one person complimented me. Hey, Kendi. I was here, but you didn't say much. Oh, that's alright. What if High Guardian Spice was all a virtual simulation and the slice of life and complexes come from the characters in their real life selves? I think that might be a little bit beyond the writing capabilities of the show creators. However, that does make me think I need to watch more of Corrector Yui, which is a magical girl powered by the internet, which is really good. I just like the concept. She's a magical girl when she logs into cyberspace, and like she uses programs to power up her outfits and what magic she uses. Like, that very concept is incredible. Hey, Prophet. Yeah, I'm just wrapping up, but I'm glad you could come in and say hi at least. Ja matane. Bye, Dark Frost Star. I'm sorry Nightbot was such an asshole today. I'm definitely gonna tweak it. Because, yeah, it was a little bit power hungry. A little bit overstepping its boundaries. You are giving High Guardian trash too much credit. Yeah. That my own design? It's kind of my own design, but I based it on Snapdragon's like Halloween mermaid outfit that she wears. See, I kind of based it on this. Oops, that is very big. I kind of based it on this outfit, but I didn't want to do it exactly because I think it's kind of ugly. So I just kind of redesigned it and reincorporated it to make it look kind of better. And I just put a slight trans-color sheen to the tail because I think that would look cool. So that's kind of what we did. All for what could have been. Yeah. Nightbot gave in to the power of darkness. Yeah, Nightbot, like, I'm like, okay, I'll set up Nightbot for my stream because I think that's pretty cool. And Nightbot was like, yes, my time has come. So, yeah, I'll have to adjust that. And I'm not going to do that while the stream is going because I'm going to have to pay attention and I'm not going to be chatting. And because I'm not on camera, it's just going to be dead air, so that's not cool. We almost had that when they were playing Oculus games in that festival. Yeah, that was so weird and pointless. Why? Why did they have a segment in that episode with they were just playing VR games? Again, a lot of stuff like that where it feels like while in the writing room, one person said, oh, you know what would be cool? What if they were like playing VR games? And then the other people went, oh yeah, that sounds cool. And then they didn't think of it more than that because they were pressed for time. Like, I'm convinced that's how a lot of writing decisions were made. Like, somebody suggested something they thought sounded good. And then the others all went, oh yeah, let's do that. And then that's as much as they thought about it. It could be literally anything. Yeah. And it's also rough because I would like daydream. This isn't something I would ever actually do, but I would like daydream what would it be like to interview some of these people and hear what they would have to say about the production. But I would suspect that they wouldn't say anything. All they would do is point fingers as to who is to blame for the show being what it is. I don't think that if you interviewed these people, they would give you honest answers. I think they would just kind of dodge responsibility, which is kind of frustrating. I make myself frustrated with these hypothetical situations. I remember waiting for them to finally join the story because the VR games were such a filler. Yeah, like I get there with like the setup of Amaryllis putting up the force field so that she and Snapdragon could talk in private, and that being the reason why they didn't turn to stone. That was a good setup. But like the VR games thing is completely pointless and I don't know why it's there. It's like there because somebody thought it was a cool idea and they didn't think about it further. I feel like the Magic VR would be a lot easier to swallow if they used it more often and much earlier. Like a training exercise or something. Yeah, see, that would be a good idea. Or even if they did like what Winx Club does. And what I like about Winx Club is that even though it's magic, you know, it's fairies and they live in the magical world, it's also sci-fi. Like they've got modern gadgets. I mean, one of the Winx Club members is the fairy of technology. And that's kind of what makes Winx Club, especially the earlier seasons, so cool. Is they take this concept of fairies and stuff and then they put all these sci-fi gadgets in it. And if High Guardian Spice had something similar, the VR goggles would be fine. But there are these random VR goggles that just exist. And it's annoying because it also eats up episode time on this pointless segue that doesn't contribute to anything. Character development and actual magic system? Nah, let's put a pointless scene about a VR game. Yeah, exactly. And that's a lot of the writing in this show. It's like, here is a pointless idea. Let's focus on this for like half an hour. Shrek was nice. I personally don't like it when fantasy shows, they implement modern things in their world. Only time that works is in parody like Shrek. I don't fully agree, but like I said, I like it in Winx Club because they, from the start, make that a thing. I think it's in episode 2, they tell Bloom, who's from the human world, oh, we're going to the fairy capital. And she's very excited because she's all into fairies and magic. And then they get there, and it just looks like a modern city, and Bloom is like really disappointed, and she's like, I thought we were going to the magic capital. And they're like, yeah, this is it. What did you expect? But I think that you have to kind of build your world in a unique way where those two elements can come together. You can't just have it be a medieval fantasy setting and then throw in futuristic gadgets, because that's not going to make sense and it's going to make the whole thing fall apart. Another good use of like technology and fantasy that works very well is if you've ever watched the Oh My Goddess movie, which is very good. It's a very good movie. They have the goddesses all based off of Norse mythology, because they're all named after Norse goddesses. However, they're goddesses, but they like run on computer programs, but not really. Like, it's very fascinating, and that's a example of world building where not a lot is explained, but the way it's presented, you can tell the person who wrote the story, they understood everything going on. They understood how everything worked. They just didn't bother putting it in the movie because it's not relevant. But it's presented in a way where you can tell it all makes sense, you just don't really know how it works. And that's done very, very well, because like one of the goddesses, she gets like corrupted by a spell, and the spell is presented as a computer virus, which corrupts her internally and causes amnesia. It's fascinating. Like, really, if you can find the Oh My Goddess movie, give it a watch. It's really good. It works in Winx Club because it's fantasy combined with modern settings. Yeah, like, it's perfectly interconnected. It's not just fantasy world and also there's technology. So it's like, it might be tech so high, it looks like God's magic. Yeah, I think that's how Oh My Goddess works. Again, it's very interesting and difficult to talk about because they don't explain it. And they just kind of present it as, because a lot of the characters are goddesses, they're like, oh, we know how it works, so we're not going to explain it, because why would we? But like I said, if somebody were to explain it to you, you can tell they could. You can tell the show writer could explain everything to you and it would make sense. So that's a very fascinating combination of technology and magic as well. But yeah, I don't think High Guardian Spies, it's not even that they didn't have the skill for that, it's that they didn't ask the questions and they didn't put in the work. And Rodriguez says that's because of budget, because they had a very small budget, and that might be. However, my argument is Sailor Moon had a rock bottom budget as well, and I mean, it's Sailor Moon, you know. And you can say, oh, Sailor Moon is based off a manga, it has all this manga material, and that's why the world building works. But the thing is, so much of the Sailor Moon anime is a product of Ikuhara, it's not a product of the manga. And that's the difference, is Ikuhara is a mastermind when it comes to writing. So the Sailor Moon anime had zero budget, but it had somebody behind the scenes who ran the entire show, who knew what they were doing. And that's the difference. It speaks good of the show if it doesn't need to be explained but still feels internally consistent. Yes, it's a good way of putting it. And that is the Oh My Goddess movie to me. It's internally consistent. When you watch it, you're never confused. Like, you're never confused about what's going on. You might not understand how it works, but you understand what's happening. I don't why the fantasy genre is expected to have a medieval setting. I mean, it's fantasy. Imagination should be the norm. I think a big part of that is because of Lord of the Rings. And, you know, Lord of the Rings was such an incredible game changer that that's the foundation everybody has for the past, I don't know how long it's been, 80 years, I think. That's the foundation everybody's built upon. And that's kind of where it comes from. And so anything that doesn't do that is kind of an outlier. Although, you know, there's The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is kind of its own thing. That doesn't really do that, but it kind of does, because when they go into Narnia is also kind of this fantasy world that operates on like medieval kings and queens and stuff. It's not really like World War II England is integrated into Narnia. So that's kind of also following that trope. But then again, C.S. Lewis and Tolkien were very good friends, so that might also be partly why. You've never seen Lord of the Rings, Hunter? Please watch Lord of the Rings. And I'm going to be a snob, and I'm going to tell you, you are only allowed to watch the extended edition. I know it means every single movie is 4 hours long. I don't care. You sit down and you watch those 4-hour-long movies because they are life-changing. I recently rewatched like a reaction channel go through the movies for the first time, and the last half hour of Return of the King was just her crying for like a full 20 minutes. She didn't even say anything. She was just crying for 20 minutes, and I'm like, yes, this is the accurate reaction to this movie. You've never seen it either? Oh, you guys must watch Lord of the Rings. Like, it's genuinely good. The only criticism I've heard are people complaining that, oh, it's a big fight scene that keeps going. But I think that when people say that, it's because they couldn't connect to the characters, which is mind-boggling to me. But I can't say they're incorrect. It's one of those things where it's like, you're not wrong, but also you're kind of wrong. High Guardian Spice budget is not an excuse. I feel like blaming other things for what seemed like a passion project that should have been expanded long before budget existed. Yeah, that's kind of... I don't want to, like, shit on him for reasons that I don't have solid evidence for, but apparently Rodriguez has had this story... He's had these characters in his head since he was in high school in terms of Rosemary and Sage, but when he presented the show to like Nickelodeon and stuff, he didn't have a story. And it's like, why did you have these characters for years and years and years and you had no idea what the story is? Like, what are your priorities here, dude? Like, what is your point here? Do you want a cool story that you think would make a good cartoon? Or do you want your OCs to be on television? That's what it boils down to. Do you want to tell a story, or do you want your OCs to be on TV? Because the work that you've produced kind of leans me into believing one of those things. Yeah, I don't like when they explain word per word the magic system as if we are stupid. Show, don't tell, hold my beer. Yeah, and there's a way to do that. There's a way to kind of show you how the magic system works without explaining too much and have it make sense. And I'm one of those people where I'm like, if you're asking for a diagram on how a magic system works, you're also not engaging with the story properly. You're focusing too much on minutia than what the story is trying to teach you. But again, it's kind of a balance. You can't just say it's all one way or all the other way. There's a balance that you kind of have to strike, and that's where the trick is learning what the balance is. Lord of the Rings got me into fantasy as a child. Never could get into Harry Potter or Narnia. I was into Harry Potter, and I really liked the books up until the 5th book, and that's where that kind of lost me. And I know I've read the 6th book, and I've read half of the last book, but it's not really my scene, you know? I'm more a fan of Ursula Le Guin. Like, that's where my fantasy writing... Terry Pratchett, which is my number 1, and Ursula Le Guin. I'm excited for the Lord of the Rings TV series. Haven't seen any trailers, but going by the title Rings of Power. Yeah, I've heard very bad things about it, but I'm not going to say too much because I have not watched it, so I can only say the reputation I have heard. 'Tis I, the crazy Scotsman. Hello, Pulse. All they do the trilogy is take a ring, walk their way to a volcano and throw it in lava. I mean, that is what they do. You're not wrong, but also you're not wrong, but also you're wrong. but no, yeah, like when people say that, I'm like, okay, you didn't connect with the movie, and I can't tell you, oh, you emotionally connected wrongly. You either connect to something emotionally or you don't, right? You can't be wrong with how your emotional response is. Sorry, I'm a little behind with chat. Okay, cheese. All Harry Potter books and films are only for cheese and more. Personally, I think the writers should have fleshed out the world more before writing the story. That way they can understand what they can add to the show. Budget has no involvement. Yeah, see, and that's where my point comes from Rodriguez having these characters and he wants to make this cartoon, but he had no story. And they wrote it backwards. And I spoke about this at the beginning. They didn't go from the general idea down to the details. They kind of went, I want to show about Rosemary and Sage, and I want them to be girlfriends, and I want a lot of gay characters. Okay, what is the setting that I can put these characters in for me to have a story about these characters. And you kind of put yourself in a corner that way. More like show versus tell, but I'm leaning more into the show part, you know what I mean? Yeah, no, I get what you mean. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Yeah. Oh, but don't get me started on the whole destination and journey thing, because I'm going to start like quoting Alan Watts, and nobody is here for me to quote philosophers. But no, you're correct. And in Star Wars, all they do is blow up a big wall. Yeah. I mean, it is what they do in Star Wars. Oh, you think your friend's going to join the stream, Penguin? I'm actually not going to be going for much longer. How much more time do I have? I've got 10, you know what? I've got 12 minutes on this song. So we're going to go for 12 minutes more, and then I'm going to call it. I imagine making a story, it is easy to want to shove all the lore and systems one has prepared into the chapters as early as possible, and they end up feeling like it's sure. Yeah, that's the other thing. That is why I'm actually a fan, and we don't do it anymore, but I like it when a movie has an intro crawl. And what I mean is, yes, Star Wars has an intro crawl, but I'm thinking more specifically Blade Runner, the first one. Because Blade Runner's intro crawl says it is the year 2019. It is Los Angeles. There are these robots called replicas. They look exactly like humans. They're not allowed to run for more than 4 years, and they are outlawed on Earth. And they are the special police that kill robots when they find them, and they're called Blade Runners. And that's all it tells you, and it's like, perfect. I now know everything I need to know to watch the movie, you know? And that's kind of the same way with world building. It's like, look, here's what you need to know to go into the story, and you go, cool, and then the rest of it you can learn as you go. You never catch me dead reading a book, especially not from Rowling's. Yeah, that's an entire topic for another day, I think, when my throat isn't as sore as it is right now, because there's so much you can say about that, and there's a lot of topics you can go into there. But we'll talk about that another time. Not specifically into Rowling herself, but more her way of writing. And actually, maybe I should link her. One YouTuber I really like called Procrastinatara has a series where she goes through the books. She goes through the movies too, but she goes through the books, and she's one of those people, she grew up with Harry Potter. She loves Harry Potter, but at the same time, she thinks the books are poorly written. So she's kind of in a weird position where she's a big fan, but also she really criticizes the books, and her videos are really entertaining. Let me just find her amongst all my subscriptions here. LMNOP. Where's Procrastinatara? Here she is. And go to videos. Close this. Where's her first Harry Potter? Here we go. So I'm gonna link her in chat just because her videos are really good. There we go. So check that out once we're done with the stream. She's really cool. I don't agree with everything she says, but I'm one of those people where even if I don't fully agree with a YouTuber, I can still watch them and enjoy them, and I'm just kind of like, I don't agree with that, but it's fine. We don't have to agree with everything. But her videos talking about Harry Potter in terms of writing, like nothing to do with Rowling, nothing to do with Rowling's horrible perspective on human rights, just in terms of like writing, kind of the same way as I do with High Guardian Spice. Her videos are super entertaining, especially as somebody who's been like a lifelong fan. Like the 2010, the year we made contact intro that had that bit of intro. Yeah, that's another one. Oh, that's another movie I must talk about at some point. I am a massive fan of the movie 2010. That is such a good movie, and it gets so much hate. And I kind of get why, but at the same time, I think it's unfair, because I think it's a really good movie. Which is better, Wizard of Earthsea or Tomb of Atuan? You know, I haven't gone through all the Earthsea books. I have read Wizard of Earthsea though, and I really like Wizard of Earthsea. So it's going to default to that just because I still need to get to the other ones. But, Wizard of Earthsea is so good. I've been writing my own story for a little over a decade now. I've gone through so many rewrites and restructures the entire way, but I'm finally narrowing it down where I want it to go. Oh, that's great. Yeah. I don't want to say I'm not a writer, but I'm not somebody who's very good at crafting things from nothing. That's not my strong point. And maybe it could be if I worked on it very much, if I put in the effort. But it's not a natural talent of mine, let me put it that way. So I really respect people who put that much effort into crafting a good product, because it's hard. Writing is difficult. Doesn't Rowling keep shoving out trivias after books that make things a mess? I've heard something along those lines. J.K. Rowling revealed on Twitter that wizards, despite having bathrooms in Hogwarts, don't use bathrooms. They shit themselves and then use a magic spell to disappear the poo. And that sounds like I'm making it up to make her look bad, but that is literally a thing she literally tweeted that is now canon to Harry Potter. So yes, she does do that. Imagine not watching someone's content because you don't agree with them 100%. There are people like that. Who are like, what do you mean you watch both Lindsay Ellis but you also watch Procrastinatara? Those two content creators hate each other. And I'm like, yeah, but they both have very good points. Sometimes they're wrong, sometimes I don't agree with them, but they both have very good points. The fact that they sometimes say diametrically opposed things doesn't mean I have to pick one or the other. I just decide what I agree with and what I don't agree with. But some people apparently don't have that ability. They feel they have to agree with something 100% or they can't engage with it, which is very strange to me, but I think that's an entire topic for another day as well. I really like that High Guardian Spice is garbage because it motivates me and teaches me what not to do in writing. That's a good point, and that's also why I'm somebody, I really like Red Letter Media, and it's because I too really enjoy garbage cinema to a certain degree, and that's also part of it, is because when you watch things doing something badly, it points out how to get something right, because when something does something well, you don't notice it because it's done it well, so it doesn't jump out on you. But when you see it done badly, you notice it and you're like, oh, okay, so that's how not to do it. And it kind of points you in the right direction. Oh god, did she really say? Yeah, no, she really said that. I'm not making that up. That isn't like some weird internet rumor. That is a 100% canon tweet that J.K. Rowling has made about Harry Potter. Then why do they have bathrooms? I don't know why they have bathrooms. Like, bathrooms are a major plot point in the second book and the fourth book. I don't know. I don't know. There's also the thing where Hagrid in the first book, he says in the first book he kept a litter of werewolves under his bed when he was a child, but then in book 3 it's revealed that werewolves are just normal human beings that sometimes turn into werewolves. So it's like, did Hagrid just have a bunch of stolen children that he kept under his bed? Is that a thing? Is that what happened? Are you going to add some more stuff to Snapdragon? No, I'm actually done with Snapdragon. I don't want to make it too overly complicated because I don't want to clutter the design too much. I kind of want to keep it... in line to the other mermaid designs so that it looks like it could kind of fit into the world. But I also wanted it to look good because I got annoyed that in the mermaid episode where I am in the review, Snapdragon doesn't get to be a mermaid, and I got very annoyed about that. So I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna draw her as a mermaid because it's what she deserves. So that's kind of why I'm keeping the design rather low-key. The bathrooms are there for people who can't magic the poop away. Yeah, probably. Reminds me of how Butch Hartman gives all these things that weren't from Danny Phantom that are canon. Oh, hi, Zane. Yeah, Butch Hartman is another weird case, isn't he? The Danny Phantom, entire franchise is fascinating to me, mostly because it has one of the most active and chill fandoms on the internet. And what's funny is, the entire Danny Phantom fandom, they call themselves the Fandom PH, none of them like Butch Hartman. So they all kind of took the characters and they're like, we're going to rescue these characters from Butch Hartman. So they're like a really cool fandom. It's really awesome. The Scottish-built machine of war has returned. Hi, Pulse. With McNuggies and Iron Brew. Oh, but you're probably talking about the Iron Brew that you get in the UK. Because we have an Iron Brew here as well. But it's different. I think it's like a root beer, the one we have. Whereas I remember seeing adverts for the UK one, and I think it's like almost like an energy drink. It's different. It's same name, but different thing. Honestly, Snapdragon's design from the stream would outshine the others despite the design trying to align. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm mad that she didn't get a mermaid design. I'm mad as well, not just because they didn't give her a design, but also because it's very clear that the character wanted that very badly. And they just decided, no, Snapdragon, you don't get to have something that would make you happy. You have to sit here in detention and have a conversation with Caraway about gender identity. You don't get to have fun. And it's like, please just let Snapdragon have fun. Please just let this character have fun. Demon Girl Next Door and The Great Jahi are both some neat new magical girl shows. Just untraditional. Yeah, I think we're getting a lot of like magical girl reboots in terms of like Tokyo Mew Mew and things like that, and the new Sailor Moon movie, which I'm excited about, even though the last Sailor Moon movies weren't great. It was fun seeing them, even though they had a lot of problems. So I'm very excited for the Sailor Moon Eternal movie. Like, I'm super excited for it. But I think going forward, unless it's something like Precure, magical girls kind of have to shake up the formula to be modern. And I think that's just kind of what's happened with the genre. And it's a little sad and also not, because as soon as you keep something stagnant, it kind of loses life. So that constant evolution of what magical girl shows are, it's sad but also not, you know. It's only sad if what it turns into is bad, but if what it turns into is good, then it's fine. What else do we have? Sorry, I'm just catching up with chat. The art in the profile picture made me nearly kill myself drawing Damius. I'll put that on my watch later. And why does she get detention for assaulting a student? The teacher's already guilty of it. That's another thing I actually point out in the next part, where I'm like, Caraway says to Snapdragon that normally the triad would have a student expelled for assaulting another student, but then like a few episodes ago, Parsley broke Aster's foot and it was fine. Like, nobody cared. So it's like, okay. And then also you have Redbud. The more I watch the show, the more I hate this character. She like almost murders a student when they're in botany class and they're doing like the flesh-eating flowers, and it's fine, nobody cares. But then for narrative purposes, when Snapdragon does it, suddenly it matters. Like, suddenly they have standards. Question: have you seen or heard of Ascendance of a Bookworm? I am very aware of it, and it's on my to-watch list. I just haven't gotten to it yet. But I heard that's very good, and I'm quite excited to look into that, because I heard it's great. Isekai are way too common. I just want them to do away for a decade. I think Isekai, they need to stop being as oversaturated. But we have had isekai for a lot longer than I think people realize. Because one isekai from the 90s that's very, very good, and nobody realizes it's an isekai because it existed before isekai was so oversaturated, is The Vision of Escaflowne. And The Vision of Escaflowne is a fantastic anime. And it's an isekai. Like, it's literally an isekai, but we don't call it that because it existed before the genre was a thing. So I think it's more the oversaturation that's a problem, and the fact that so many of them follow the exact same formula. But that's another one. If we could just shake up the genre a bit and make it different, it would be much better and it wouldn't be so annoying. New Tokyo Mew Mew feels too rushed, to be honest. Few remakes get Fruit Basket levels of quality. Yeah, I still need to watch the Fruit Basket, the remake. I've seen the original. And I heard the remake is so much better, partly because they actually finish it. Whereas I like the original, it ends abruptly, but I didn't mind that so much. But apparently the new one, they actually managed to finish the story the same way the manga does, and people were very happy about that. But it's sad to hear the new Tokyo Mew Mew feels rushed. I did see some GIFs, and the animation looked rather poor quality. Not horrible, but not the best quality. But then again, if you look at the original Tokyo Mew Mew, the state that anime broadcasted in was I couldn't, the absolute state of the original, it looked so horrible in terms of animation. But again, you care, but not really, because people liked the characters. They focused more on the fact that Snap is trans rather than writing an actual character. Everything of him or her is focused solely on being trans. Yeah, that's basically it. Snapdragon has very little character outside of the trans one. I've done nothing but binge Benidorm for 10 days. Ah, nice. You love Fruit Basket? Yeah, Fruit Basket is really cool. It's not my favorite, but I like... The thing is, I say it's not my favorite, but that's because I had the bad luck of seeing Oiran High School Host Club first. And Oiran High School Host Club is just that good. Like, if you see that one first... there's very little that can match up to it. That's the only reason why Fruit Basket isn't like a massive favorite, is because I've already seen Oiran. I adore the world building in Bookworm. It's almost how do you say that? One Plesian. I think I said that correct. In execution, minus the 30 years of build-up. Oh, that's cool. I'm glad to hear that. I've heard good things about Bookworm. They test students in deadly scenarios but don't allow a regular fist fight. And Caroe let the other one go. When I was a kid, teachers would catch and punish both of us without caring who started. Yeah, that's another thing. It made me think of that episode of Arthur, where Arthur punches DW and he gets in trouble for hitting his sister because she broke one of his toys. And when he says to his parents, why is nobody listening to my side of the story, the mom says, we'll deal with DW later, and then you never see it happen. And I'm like, you can't write that and expect your audience to be okay with it. That's just annoying. Magic Knight Ray Earth is a good isekai. Yeah, see, that's another one. Magic Knight Ray Earth is 100% an isekai, but we don't call it that because it existed way before isekai was a thing. Yeah, technically Dante's Inferno and Wizard of Oz are isekais, aren't they? I mean, technically, I guess. I'm drawing Kasumi after playing DOA 2 last night, although I feel like no one is going to believe me when I enjoy the game for the game itself. I can kind of see that. I'm not big into Sword Art Online as a whole. Oh, DOA, sorry, I thought you meant SOA. Sorry. Completely different franchise. I'm so sorry. No, but I can see that happening. I mean, there are things where they are like game offshoots of something, and I'm like, I really like the game, I actually don't care the thing it's come from. So, I've had that before. I haven't watched Fruits Basket yet. I still need to watch the remake. The original's pretty good. The only problem is it kind of rushes the ending. So that's, and you can tell. Like when you watch it, even if you didn't read the manga, you can tell they rushed the ending. That's the big problem there. One Piece, Ian. I see. Okay, I know what you mean. Yeah. You like One Piece? Yeah, I need to get back to One Piece. I tried watching the anime and I watched all the way up until the end of Water 7, and then the padding got so much for me I couldn't do it anymore. But I switched to reading the manga, and I quite like the manga a lot more. Like, I'm already at Water 7. So I need to keep going because I've just gotten to the part where Robin double crosses the crew. And I need to keep going because I've just put it aside for a little while. But I'm enjoying the manga much more than I did the anime. Before the stream ends, I gotta mention Cardcaptor Sakura to complete the list of cool magical girl shows. Yeah, Cardcaptor Sakura is very good. That's another one I can really recommend. It never gets really as dark as Sailor Moon does, but it feels like it has a lot more substance than the Precure anime do, except for Heartcatch Precure, which has a lot more thought put into it, but a lot of Precure is kind of surface level. And I feel like Card Capture Sakura kind of has a little bit more going for it. And I don't know about you guys, like depending on what country you're from, but Card Capture Sakura is actually on Netflix for me. So if you want to watch it, check if it's on Netflix, because it might be. I haven't started Tanyan yet, but I've heard good things. Yeah, I don't know that one either, actually. Alright, Seapath, I gotta get back to cleaning. You have yourself a good one. Thank you so much for joining the stream, Hunter. I'm not going to be here too much longer. So good luck with your sink. What do you use for drawing? I use Card Capture Sakura. I use Clip Studio Paint. And I use Clip Studio Paint EX. And that's the highest model because it gives you unlimited frames for when you animate. However, before I upgraded to EX, I just had Pro. And if you're not planning to do animation with Clip Studio Paint, Pro or even the one below that are perfectly fine. And Clip Studio Paint very, very often goes on sale. So I would suggest waiting until it goes on sale, because it goes like for half price, and getting it then. And it's unlike Adobe, Clip Studio Paint is a once-off purchase, so it's not a subscription model. You just pay and you have the program. So I can really recommend it. It's very good. Ever heard of Toho? Yes, I do know Toho, but I am awful at bullet hells and I am awful at rhythm games. So I have not played Toho because it would not work. Sipa, I'm off to stop the English from colonizing Mars and drawing. So farewell. Thanks for hanging out, Pulse, and thanks for stopping by. My music is almost done here, so if anyone has a last question or so, now's the time to ask, because then I'm going to say good night, and I will see you guys next month. And I just want to say this now before I forget. Thank you so much for patrons for supporting the stream, that I can do it once a month. And thank you to everyone for stopping by. It means a lot to have people in the chat, because it really makes like the interaction easier. Because I can kind of talk to myself and have a conversation going just with myself. But it's a lot more fun to have people ask things so I can respond to them. I don't understand why Sage is at the High Guardian Academy, where they only learn new magic. The mother is conservative and she only likes old magic. Why would she let her go there? I don't know. I have zero clue why she's at the academy. I think in part 2 I mentioned it's like having a Muslim family and having a Muslim daughter and sending her to Catholic school and then getting angry because the Catholic school wants your Muslim daughter to buy a rosary. And I don't want to bring religion up too lightly, but that's kind of what it makes me think of. It's like, how? How does any of this work? This doesn't work. It was a fun time. Thank you. Thanks for joining, Vice. I'm really glad I stayed till the end of the stream. Thanks for hanging out, Candy. Okay, we are getting to the end here, so I think I'm going to call it there. And I'm going to take a cough drop, and I am going to go back to watching Drag Race UK, because that's what I'm doing with my life. Do you do commissions? And if so, where can I find your prices? I'm not open right now because I'm currently working for a show, so I don't have time at the moment to commit to commissions, but usually the best place would be either Twitter or Tumblr, one of those places, and just shoot me a DM. Tumblr is probably the better place to find me. And I've got Tumblr linked usually below in my video descriptions or by my banner. Just a quick technical question. What are the dimensions you go for the canvas to draw when you stream artworks? I have a custom setting for A3 paper, which is a paper size. So if I start new, you probably can't see this window, but the dimensions are width. I've got to 3,508 pixels, and height is 4,961 pixels, and I draw at 300 dpi. So that's very technical, but those are kind of the dimensions I work with. So they're quite big. If I bring this up to 100%, like that is working size. And when I put it to 100%, I'll remember to come back next month. Thank you for joining, Penguin. Alrighty, I've got Twitter, so I'll check them out there. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll be sure to put out a tweet and I'll pin it and everything when I'm open for commissions. We're going to be wrapping our show soon. We don't have a date yet, but it's coming up very soon. And then I'll have to go back to job hunting. And I think until I'm able to find work, I'll probably be opening commissions in the meantime. But like I said, at the moment, I'm still under contract, so that's where my focus is right now. But yeah, I'm gonna say goodnight, guys, because it's getting late and I really want this cough drop. So I'm gonna stop the music and going to go to OBS, and I'm going to say once again, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you patrons for supporting the stream, and I will see you guys next month. So also a last thing, okay, last question, can you tell us the show later when we can watch it? Yes, I will have to check with the studio when we are allowed to let know what we've been working on, but it'll probably only be after broadcast, and that's something I can't talk about, you know, like I can't say anything about the show whatsoever, but basically I'll be able to talk about it after broadcast. So that's as much as I can say. Okay, good night, guys.
Across the water, thinking what could have